Thunder!
Hey everybody, how's it going? It finally happened. After 26 years, we finally got a brand new 3D Donkey Kong. It also just so happens to be the first brand new Donkey Kong game period in over 10 years since Tropical Freeze. And let me just say right off the bat, I am completely blown away by how incredible this game looks. As much as I was anticipating another 3D Mario to show up in the Switch 2 Direct, I could not be happier with this outcome. This is everything I could have wanted a new Donkey Kong game to look like without me even knowing it. The art direction is stellar, the movement and gameplay mechanics look incredibly fun, and Donkey Kong's redesign feels like a refreshing take on the character. In fact, this entire game feels like a refresh on the Donkey Kong IP as a whole. Not a full reboot, but a revitalization that seems to be trying to take the series into a new direction. This looks like Donkey Kong's equivalent of Mario Odyssey in so many ways, and I wanted to give my overall thoughts on this. So first off, yeah, this game is absolutely made by the Odyssey team. It's pretty obvious. The art style, the UI, even just the way that Donkey Kong moves around in the world feels 100% based around Odyssey. I even see direct parallels in the main foundation of the game. In Mario Odyssey, the main gimmick centers around using a plethora of different enemies to capture in order to complete certain tasks or solve puzzles within the environment. In Bananza, that whole environmental puzzle solving is still present, but instead of the capture mechanic, Donkey Kong uses the various parts of the terrain itself to his advantage. It is just so fascinating to me how fundamentally different Mario and Donkey Kong are from each other, and yet so many similarities can still be found between the two. Both Odyssey and Bananza are collectathon style platformers, yet they each have a totally different approach to the concept. But anyways, let's go back to talking about that terrain mechanic again. When I first saw this used in the reveal trailer, it just felt right. Taking advantage of Donkey Kong's raw strength and turning it into an entire system for both movement as well as combat just fits the character so well. Being able to quite literally punch your way through anything that this game throws at you just feels so right for a Donkey Kong game, and I can't wait to see how far the developers take this mechanic. In both of the Nintendo Treehouse segments for the game, we can see how different types of terrain have different properties. For example, you have softer terrain that Donkey Kong can just dig right through effortlessly, but then you also have more sturdy terrain that requires other stronger terrain to be thrown at it in order to break through it. There's also explosive terrain, terrain that sticks to things, terrain that changes its shape when things are thrown at it. Just so many different types for DK to use. I saw some people saying that they could see the mechanic losing its charm pretty quickly, but I think that as long as there's plenty of variety in the terrain that you encounter in the game, there's a ton that can be done with the mechanic without it becoming stale. I also think that this mechanic is the reason that this game is a Switch 2 exclusive. All of the particle effects and objects flying all over the screen, as well as the game remembering what you've already destroyed within a level, feels like it might have been a bit tricky for the Switch 1 to pull off. I also want to point out that Bananza's core mechanic almost feels like it's taking some cues from the recent Zelda titles. The freedom to basically use the entire environment as a playground is a core theme of both Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, so I definitely think that the team making Bananza at least took some inspiration from those two titles. Having the freedom to fully explore each and every part of the environment by climbing everywhere and digging through pretty much everything makes it feel like the developers took the idea of a sandbox game and made this game exactly that in a much more literal sense. I am super excited to play around with this mechanic when the game comes out. But enough about the gameplay. I wanted to delve more into what this game might mean for the Donkey Kong IP as a whole. First off, I gotta address the redesign. We first got a glimpse of it in the initial reveal for Mario Kart World, and we got to see it in full front and center in the trailer for Bananza. I know the design seems to be a bit divisive online, but if I'm being completely honest, this might be my favorite look for DK. It just feels like the perfect blend of his original design, the rare design, and a bit of the movie design as well. DK still looks largely the same, but he has a much softer appearance now and is far more expressive than he's ever been in previous games. Now, I have seen some people suggesting that the redesign might signal a full reboot of Donkey Kong, but I see it more as being representative of a new era for the franchise. I don't think that we're leaving the rare influences behind by any means. In fact, I think that this title is meant to be a massive celebration, or bonanza, of DK's past, present, and future, which is why, once again, this really does feel like Donkey Kong Odyssey to me. Now, if we are celebrating DK's history as a whole with this game, I also wouldn't be shocked if we get more references to his history with Mario. It just makes sense. Despite Donkey Kong really being his own full-blown IP at this point, DK and Mario have always been intrinsically intrinsically connected ever since the original arcade game. Mario Odyssey already paid homage to Donkey Kong in the form of New Donk City and the inclusion of Pauline. I could totally see us getting something of that level in Bananza then too. It's clear that Nintendo does want the general audience to see Donkey Kong as part of the Mario universe even more now, especially after how the Mario movie handled things. Now, I don't think that this means that Donkey Kong is going to start being treated as more of just a spin-off of Mario, but I definitely think that Nintendo is trying to show the Mario universe as a whole being much more interconnected than it has been in the past. Alright, now here's where we get into full-blown speculation territory. There's still so much that we don't know about the overall story of this game, but I feel like what we've seen so far could be hinting at some really interesting stuff. You know how I said that I don't think that the Rare influences are going anywhere? Well, when talking about Rare and the original Donkey Kong Country games, you gotta address one of DK's biggest adversaries, King K. Rool. Now, why do I bring up King K. Rool? He hasn't been present in the last few Country games, so why would he all of a sudden be back for Bananza? Well, there are various clues hinting at his return in what we've seen from the game so far, starting with the main antagonists of the game, Voidco. On the surface, they seem to just be a group of monkeys interested in stealing all of the Banandium for themselves. But here's the thing, both the French and Japanese websites for Bananza make Voidco feel more mysterious, with the French site even saying who is behind Voidco, implying a much bigger villain. Cranky Kong can also be seen during the Treehouse presentation, and apparently he also makes reference to knowing who stole the bananas, making it sound like it was someone the Kongs have dealt with before. Now, yes, there have been other groups that have stolen DK's banana hoard before, but there's one final damning piece of evidence. There are these ancient rock-type enemies in the game that look like crocodiles, and when their outer shell is broken, there's a golden skeleton-like crocodile underneath. So it really does seem like something is going on with the Kremlings in K. Rool, but to what extent is still to be seen. Are these ancient Kremlings that lived underground? Does K. Rool believe that because of these ancients, the Banandium is his for the taking? No one really knows, but either way, I'd be willing to bet that he is the villain behind all of this. Besides King K. Rool, I'm also really interested in seeing if the other Kongs show up. I think it would be kind of strange for Cranky to be the only other member of the Kong family to show up in this title. I know that DK has a brand new companion in the form of Odd Rock, but to me it would be a really strange omission to not have Diddy Kong show up in at least some form, especially if this is a celebration of everything Donkey Kong. I'm hoping that they just haven't shown him yet because he's getting a design update much like DK. So there's one more major element that I want to talk about. It's something that hasn't even officially been revealed yet, so if you don't want the spoiler, then you can just leave the video now because I'm going to be talking about this for the rest of the video, and it's kind of a big reveal, I guess. Alright, now that we got that settled, let's talk about what is kind of a massive leak about Donkey Kong Bananza. This leak comes from the Korean Nintendo site, and as you can see in the image, it depicts the Bananza key art. But something is different. Odd Rock is nowhere to be seen, and instead there's a younger looking girl clinging onto DK, and this girl has a shocking resemblance to Pauline. So right away my initial reaction is that this makes sense since Pauline has always had very strong ties to Donkey Kong, so it just feels right. But the more you think about it, the stranger this gets. The biggest thing that I noticed right away is her bracelet. It seems to be made of the same rocks as Odd Rock, so most likely this girl is Odd Rock or at least has a connection to him. I'm leaning towards her actually being Odd Rock because Odd Rock was covered with the same Voidco tape that can be seen sealing things like portals and barrels around the world, so I'm guessing that she was sealed into the rocky form by Voidco. But now we gotta ask ourselves, why? Why does this girl look like Pauline? I was originally thinking that, oh, this must be a young Pauline and this is a reworked origin of how she first met DK. One big issue though, Cranky Kong is here. Cranky is confirmed to be the original Donkey Kong from the arcade game. He also makes references to his rivalry with Mario and even mentions stuff from the Country games, so seemingly this game takes place after the events of all of DK's other outings. Another thing that points to this not being a prequel is that New Donk City seems to already exist, as can be inferred by the letters NDC on crates seen around the world in Bananza, NDC presumably standing for New Donk City. Okay, so if this is taking place in the present Donkey Kong timeline, then why does Pauline look like a child? I think there are a few explanations for this. One could be that we are experiencing some time travel weirdness and young Pauline got pulled into this time period. This really could be a younger Pauline because when DK originally finds Odd Rock, he sings to them to calm them down. Pauline has been heavily associated with music music ever since Odyssey, so maybe through some weird time shenanigans, DK is revealed to be the reason she loves singing. Another idea is that part of the seal put on her by Voidco also made her younger. But the final explanation is that this might not be Pauline at all. This is the one that I'm leaning towards the most. I'm thinking that rather than this being the normal Pauline, maybe this girl is Pauline's niece or daughter. Now, why exactly is she here with Donkey Kong? Maybe Voidco kidnapped her in order to have leverage on New Donk City with Pauline being the mayor. Now, I highly doubt that Donkey Kong Bonanza is going to have a core theme of extortion, but whatever the reason for her being in the game is, having her as a companion for Donkey Kong could allow for a really interesting and compelling character dynamic in my opinion. So based on everything that we've seen so far with Donkey Kong Bonanza, I really do think that we're in for something special with this game. We're probably going to get another big trailer before the game releases too. I feel like it's going to be like Odyssey where we didn't get the capture mechanic revealed until the second major trailer. If I had to guess, this is probably when they'll reveal exactly who this new girl is and possibly some more story information in general. I just want this game to perform well so the Donkey Kong IP can start getting a bit more attention from Nintendo, because I'm not about to go another 10 plus years without a new DK game. I cannot wait to get my hands on this game, and luckily it's only about 3 months away, so we don't have to wait too much longer. But for now, I think that's enough out of me. So if you like this video, feel free to like and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next video. Later.